Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else. Hello, Habit Mechanics. Dr. Jon Finn here. I hope you're having a great week so far. So today, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm excited to have a guest, and we're joined by our head of coaching, Tougher Minds head of coaching, Andrew Foster. Now, I've known Andrew for a very long time, and we've worked together for going on 15 years now. Andrew is our head of coaching, and I'll let him say a few lines about what he actually does at Tougher Minds in case you've never met him before or heard from him.
Thanks, John. Great to be on the podcast. Yeah, so I'm Andrew Foster. The bulk of my work's with fantastic people in all sorts of different sectors, all sorts of different stages of their careers. They tend to be super ambitious, really exciting people who can see that gap between what they intend to do and what actually ends up happening. What I help them do is close that gap. So it's it's brilliant work to do. It's really rewarding, and it's great to be here on the podcast to discuss uh, our work together.
Yeah, one of the things I find really interesting about your work, Andrew, is how many people renew with you. So they normally sign up for like a 2 month program, don't they? 4 1-to-1s over 2 months, but then they continue working with you. And it's what's often not just surprising but delightful about that is lots of these people you're working with, they're not slouches in the sense of they're actually quite exceptional people in what they've achieved. And that's doesn't mean that you need to be an outstanding top of your professional person to work with you, but the people who everyone else looks at and thinks, well, they've got this sorted out, they don't need any support. But actually, they're often the ones who are most minded to get the support because they understand the value of um, just having an expert to keep touching base with to help them overcome the challenges that we all have. That just sometimes it seems like some people don't have those challenges because they're doing super well.
Absolutely, I think a lot of the time, the challenge is like we can reframe them as actually getting after opportunities in the best way that we can. So when someone has some success with us, working together in that first 2 months, then very often that then leads to right, what's next? I'm now because I did X, I've now got this opportunity to do Y, and I understand that I will be more likely to hit my straps and really hit my potential on achieving Y if I'm doing taking the same approach and developing it and getting even better at using tougher minds strategies and tougher minds tools to to manage how I'm working towards that new goal.
And this brings us on to what we're going to talk about in this podcast. One of the side effects of,
Mm.
and I've seen this in my own work, and Andrew tells me about this all the time. One of the side effects of putting the Tougher Minds program into practice, that is becoming a habit mechanic, working on your brain states, is that people lose weight. And it's very rarely something that we are primarily focusing on. But Andrew and I were just talking about this before Christmas that um, people that he's doing one-to-one coaching with, one of the things that they keep talking about is that they're losing weight. I
Mm.
actually had an incident in the last 12 months where someone had booked some coaching with me, but they'd sort of deliberately done it into the future. So I hadn't seen this person for, say, 6 months. And when I saw them on the call, I didn't recognize them. I was thinking, as I'd only ever met them once before online, I was thinking, is this the same person? And then the person disclosed that they'd been using the diet, exercise, sleep swap plan. and they'd lost a couple of stone or something. But we're in January, and often people are resetting what they want to be working on. They're renewing their goals. And one of the obvious things that people talk about is weight loss. And we came across an article in a very prominent media outlet that you will know. Um, and we thought that it was outdated in how it was thinking about weight loss. And we thought it was a good thing to talk about. And the title of this article is The Myth of Willpower and Why Some People Struggle to Lose Weight More Than Others. And this really is a story about why some people struggle to change their behavior, because that's what weight loss is really all about. But it's saying, willpower is pretty useless, really. And we keep hearing that message. But what I know after 25 years of studying these things in great detail is that it's not. And willpower is getting a massively bad rap, and it's getting a misinformed rap. So today we want to sort of demystify how we actually change our behavior, including the things that we might need to do to lose weight, and come at this with a robust, strategic, scientific lens. Because understanding how to lose weight, just like understanding how to stop beating yourself up as much as you currently are, it is, you can think we now have the same level of understanding that we would need if we wanted to fix a car engine, hence the habit mechanic. And it's about habits ultimately. So when you read this article, Andrew, what were the main kind of jarring points for you? Or you might want to, as someone who set out from Cambridge University wanting to have a career in journalism, you might want to even step back further and frame the article for us.
Well, there's like I'm just looking, just double checking for myself again. There's one. This is a very long article. There's a single mention of the word habit in the whole article, where that should be a central point of it. And, I what's good about the article is that clearly it's quite a lot of legwork being put into it. They've gone out, the journalist has gone out and talked to a lot of different people and seems genuinely interested and tried to provide some good detail. But that, if you're not putting habits at the core or, at the center of the piece, then you are not going to be able to inform the people who read it as to what you're setting out to do at the start. So yeah, that would be my main observation in the first instance.
So essentially, the article is very much leaning towards the nature side of the nature nurture argument. That is, we are a result. We as human beings are a result of, this used to be the debate, either our genetics, which is nature, or we are a result of our environments, which is nurture. Fast forward to 2026, and even, fast forward to the early 2000s, we know that argument is hogswash, and it's at least 20 years out of date. And this article, therefore, is at least 20 years out of date in terms of what science actually tells us about why people end up in the situation they're in, whether that's overweight or worrying too much or being the exact weight they want to be, and thinking in a really healthy way. So if we just go to the basics, what science has shown us, compelling science has shown us over the last, I'd say, 25 years or so, is that nurture, what we practice has a much bigger and, I would say, significant role in what we actually get good at, what we actually end up looking like and feeling like. And one of the core insights that we've evolved in that period is by understanding what we call epigenetics. So the understanding that even our genetics are not set in stone. They have a certain amount of malleability to them, depending on what you practice. So this even happens whilst we're in the womb. If our mother is carrying, if our mother is depressed and she's stressed out, well, some of those behaviors and carried by physical biological material is going to impact our own brain function. So we're probably going to be more likely to be depressed ourselves or have a tendency towards practicing those things that make us depressed. And if we're going to think about why we get good at things, why we are overweight or underweight, why we are healthy, why we are not healthy, why we're happy, why we're not happy, why we're a high performer, why we're a low performer, we have to start with that understanding of we get good at what we practice. And yeah, our genetics play a role. So if you want to be an NBA basketball player, then having the genetic material that make you grow to 6'5" is going to be helpful. But if you're malnourished as a child, you're probably not going to grow to 6'5". So these things are very complex in how they play out. But equally, they're very simple. We have genetic material and we practice things every second of every day. We're exposed to things. So that has to be the starting point. And then where does willpower come into this? Well, let's just say that I have genetic material that makes me more prone to being overweight. And when I say overweight, I suppose you have to start with an understanding that we all have a natural weight, not what Hollywood says we should be, not what X magazine says we should be. We have a natural weight, a natural healthy weight is maybe a good way to think about it. And everybody's going to be different. But whether you end up being at your natural healthy weight or not, whether you're above it or below it, the main effect variables on that, and in science, what main effect variable means is the most important thing, the significant factors. So in science, significance has a very specific meaning. It's about it goes above a statistical threshold in terms of the impact it has on behavior in this case. It's going to be how much you eat, and more recently we've learned about what you eat as well. So how much you eat and what kind of stuff you're eating versus energy output. So it's energy input versus energy output. Now, you might think that's oversimplistic, but I would argue that it's not. It's the starting point. And energy output and energy input is driven by habits, ultimately. So some people are in the habit of exercising to different levels every day, whether it's doing your 10,000 steps or whatever it is. And also what you eat is about habit as well. So you've got these great intentions about to go on a diet, but you're just in the habit of doing what you do. And the way to break those habits is willpower. So willpower is the conduit for all change. So this idea of the willpower myth and willpower is overrated, in my mind, is just a nonsensical misunderstanding, because if you want to change something, you've got to pause, you've got to stop, resist the old behavior and practice doing something new. So that might be when you feel really hungry, instead of going for the chocolate biscuits or the sandwich or whatever it is, then what you might do instead is resist that, and you might have a glass of water instead or a cup of tea. or you might have a power nap, or you might walk around the block. And I'm not trying to give dietary advice here, but I'm just trying to demonstrate that willpower are the brakes, that it lives in the prefrontal cortex. It's really glucose, and it allows us to stop what we were currently doing and then do something different. But it's a limited resource. So it is limited. So we can't just willpower our way to a different way of behaving, a different way of thinking and doing. We need to use that limited amount of willpower to reprogram our behavior. And that's where uh, our trait habit loop and the 9 action factors come in. So I want that to be a positive message in that wherever you are with your life, with your health, your happiness, your performance, and your weight might be part of how you view yourself there. You're not fixed by your genetics. Our behavior and our ability to change it is malleable. We have more control over what we get good at, what weight we are at, than we've ever understood before. And part of why Andrew's clients almost accidentally lose weight is because they're just getting more aware of their behavior and they're able to use their willpower more strategically to do what we call intelligent self-watching and intelligent planning. So that's just a high level, I suppose, scientific reflection of where we're coming at when we're thinking about helping people to change their behavior and what people actually need to do. We have to start with the science. We have to start with that first principle analysis, which I don't think this article does. And again, we're not being critical of any journalists here. I think we're just being critical of the popular understanding of these core ideas, and they're woefully lacking compared to what we actually know from a scientific perspective.
I think it's interesting, John. So, for example, at one point in the article, one of the one of the people interviewed refers to the fact that, well, suggests that if you're seeing takeaways, if you're seeing coffee shops, if you're seeing bakeries, then that makes you more likely to go in and buy the food and eat the food. And we'd understand that. We would say that one of the 9 action factors is your physical and digital environment, and if there are triggers there that help to build a habit of buying a coffee and maybe a pastry every day on the way to work, then you're going to build that habit that's going to impact on your your regular diet. However, the way that it's presented in the article, uh, the 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 next comment is on how in that area there's been no planning permission granted for new hot food takeaways um, for over 10 years. And so it's it's implying that this is all outside of any individual's control, that it's something that um, needs to be dealt with by the authorities, whilst actually, yeah, of course, governments can have potential impacts, but the person who's going to have the most impact on any one person's diet or any other aspects of their lives is going to be that person. And there are things, straightforward things that people can do, even if they do happen to have a way to work where it's unavoidable going past food shops, etc. There are things that you can do to mitigate that problem and build a habit of not going into the shop, build a habit of having something that you prefer, that's healthier, that fits more with the diet that you want, um, as opposed to having the habit formed for you um, by the trigger of seeing that shop, that takeaway or whatever else it is that you might have on your daily commute.
Yeah, and I think that really hits the nail on the head. It's not about, and I think where this sort of popular understanding gets this wrong is that, well, willpower, it can't work because I can't resist. I give in at some point. I'll give in and I'll end up going into the coffee shop and getting a chocolate croissant and a double latte or whatever. And this is where, by understanding brain states and that you need to become a habit mechanic, is different, because it doesn't just say you need to resist the old habit. What we're saying is you need to build a replacement habit. And the willpower is the conduit for building the replacement habit. And that, we're not going to start building that habit outside the coffee shop. We're going to have deployed our willpower earlier in the day, earlier in the week, to work out exactly what we want to do, exactly why we want to do it. I mean, make sure that when we get in that position outside the coffee shop, we're not as hungry as we may have otherwise been, etc. And that's what the 9 action factors are there for. But ultimately, yeah, we have more control over our own behavior than anybody else or any other thing does. And yeah, part of the article, isn't it, is talking about this junk food ban. So junk food ads are being banned after 9 o'clock. Before 9 o'clock. Which makes an awful lot of sense, and it could go much further. I remember once, Andrew, you may forget, but a small national retailer had an outlet near where you used to live in London, which is by a school, and you once complained, I think, to the outlet directly that they shouldn't be promoting buy one get one free crisps and chocolate bars to the school children as they walk in the shop. Because if you go around the supermarkets, they're getting away with a lot, really, in terms of they know how to position the high calorific foods. And again, we go back to the basic principles. Why is high calorific foods, fat, sugar, salt, so intrinsically attractive to us? It's because our brain's designed to conserve energy. That means that if you eat an apple versus a donut, you get more energy bite for bite from the donut than you do from the apple. So your brain is implicitly understanding that getting this fat, sugary, high calorific food on board is good for survival. And supermarkets place the products where they do because they sell more of them. And I think, yeah, the world of food manufacturing, etc., has changed dramatically. But I also think that, yeah, let's get a grip on what we give people, uh, what we give people access to in terms of not spamming them every day with junk food ads, especially younger people. But we also need to educate people as well in a robust way. And that's the disappointing thing, is that this article is trying to do that, but it's failing woefully.
An interesting thing that occurred. I know that with so that would be the from the article's perspective, that approach of, well, they let's close the shop down, let's be draconian in terms of how those shops are operating. One solution that I know a school pupil found for themselves, so this is a child, is that they decided they would walk home a different way that didn't go past that shop, and they would take the money that they had in their pocket and put it to one side at the end of the day and see how much they could get together. And very quickly, because it was a daily process, it didn't take long before they had for a child, very substantial amount of money they were able to then go and spend on something they really wanted. And they didn't miss the fizzy drinks. They didn't miss the, whatever else, the crisps or the chocolate they were buying, and they were really gratified by the the big thing that they were able to buy with the money that they saved. So if very young people can do this, then it's not surprising that older people, adults, can have even more sophisticated routines, and obviously potentially be not only improving their health but also getting other great outcomes, whether it's at work, whether it's in their personal lives, uh, by developing these habits that pay off day after day, and the benefit accrues.
Yeah, and I think the understanding that, again, we're not educating people about is that what you eat and how you exercise, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's massively impacted, for example, by how you sleep, by who you hang around with. And when we look at, this article is there to inform, it's supposed to be educating people. It's not mentioning any of those other factors. It's not mentioning the combination of the factors. And, for a long time, that's why we group together sleep, diet, and exercise. And we have our diet, exercise, sleep swap plan, self watch, make a name, make a plan. Really, really simple. If you don't know what that is, you can learn about it in chapter 19 of The Habit Mechanic, where we unpack that. But how what we eat, how we exercise, it's interconnected with every element of our life. So this over simplistic idea that willpower doesn't work and it's about your genes and your environment, it's just, it's not a true reflection. And for me, it's just a little bit depressing that we're educating people about this in this way, because I think it's just disempowering people. So I suppose what we're really saying here is that there's lots of information out there that's positioned as authoritative, as cutting edge, and it just isn't. And that if we really want to help ourselves and those that we care about to be at our best, we've always got to go back to the basic scientific, I'd go as far to say his facts, the things that have emerged from big, compelling sets of data that make perfect sense, the science that we've used in our programs over years and years and years, and it works. And whatever you want to get better at in 2026, you can do it if you practice the right things. And if you practice things in a way that turns them into habits. And, willpower is going to be the conduit for how you do that ultimately, for how you unlock those 9 factors.
The other thing that occurs to me, John, is that the only thing worse than the article not mentioning habits is to only mention it once. So it's there, like there you've got the sort of solution, and yet it's passed the author by as that they see it as this element on the outside when it's got to be at the core. Like that ability to use your willpower to deliberately design habits where you need them is what's being missed.
Yeah, and if we move this forwards into the AI era, then what's really emerging is that the habits that we've all used in our professional and personal lives to achieve what we've achieved so far in our life aren't going to be the habits that allow us to be at our best in the AI era. Because the AI era is going to demand more high charge, more high impact brain states. So us operating in our high charge, high impact brain states more regularly than we have been before, because we've been okay just in our medium charge brain states. So this understanding of how to change your habits, of how to build better brain state habits, is going to become more important than ever before. So if you're thinking, I don't know enough about this yet, well, that's why we wrote Train Your Brain for Their Evolution and the Habit Mechanic. But even if you're just thinking in this way, you're ahead of the game. I was discussing this with Andrew, and I think I've mentioned it on recent podcasts. Even I've been surprised in the last few weeks, the first few weeks of the year, how much I've been hearing about AI. It's just everywhere, and it's going to become part and parcel of our world. It's not going away, so we need to get our heads around it. But it's not about the key to being successful, healthy, happy, and at your best in the AI revolution is not about the tech. It's about your brain. It's about building the habits that allow your brain to work really well. And I know that you've been helping over the last probably 18 months now, Andrew, helping people to use their willpower to build better habits so they can actually thrive alongside AI.
Absolutely. So using that brain state intelligence, being aware of high charge, medium charge, and recharge, and trying to habitualize using medium charge time to work on things in conjunction with with AI tools that would previously have been too cognitively demanding for that brain state, but with the support of the AI, people I'm working with are getting things done, and getting more value out of their day. It's Yeah, it's evolving all the time. I think that's one of the great things about working with the people that I'm working with is that they recognize that this is not just a challenge but an opportunity, and that the fact of the pace of change means that you just got to get comfortable with with being ready to look at, keeping what we talk about as being the success cycle, and keep going around the loop of measuring, of then setting out our sort of plan of what to do, optimizing, and then automating, and then round we go again. It's never going to make things perfect, but it can make things better, and it's the absolute, most valuable way to direct our willpower and direct ourselves towards making our days, weeks, and months more productive for what's important to us.
Yeah, and it gives us, I think, the term which we use, it doesn't quite give the full picture. Is willpower is a limited resource, and it is, but it isn't capped in the sense of everybody wakes up every day with the same amount of willpower. The amount of willpower you have, and really when we're talking about willpower, we're talking about operating in high charge brain states, is driven by how well you sleep, how well you exercise, and what nutrition you put into your body. That's what it's driven by, and that's habit, connected to habit two of the six habits of high performing AA professionals. We've got to get our brain working really well. So if we the more willpower we have, the more it becomes like a self-fulfilling cycle, because the more we can get into our high charge brain states, the more we can plan intelligently, self-watch intelligently, which is what the kind of the success cycle in Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution is showing you how to do. The more we're going to feel better tomorrow, and the more we'll feel better the next day, etc. And then it becomes easier to resist the temptation of thinking in the old way or doing the old thing, because we've got more kind of brain energy to resist and then to reprogram the next habit. So if we can understand that, then that goes a long way to actually helping us to do and automate whatever the things that we need to automate to be healthy, happy, and at our best. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting to speak to Andrew and hear about the work that he's doing one-to-one with his clients, because you can read a book, you can do a course, but actually when you're working with someone who's not only an expert in this area, but who can be there for you on demand to support and field questions and to make it easy for you to stay on track, then it's transformative. And I think it's helpful for people to know that they may be thinking, well, I've tried this and I can't do it. When you get to work with an expert coach, it's an absolute game changer. So for anyone who hasn't already thought about one-to-one coaching, Tougher Minds Habit Mechanic one-to-one coaching, and Andrew's always happy to give you 10, 20 minutes of his time to speak more about how he's helping and working with people. And just that in itself, I think, is people find very, very helpful. So I hope that's got you thinking about January, and you'll find this this episode in the mix of or above and below this episode will be a series that we've been doing on improving motivation in January. So I hope this is a good break from that series, but it's along the same theme. We're just being a bit more scientific here. Don't believe everything you read. Also, don't believe everything you think. We can change our behaviour one tiny neuron at a time. And the conduit is willpower. So willpower isn't a myth, it's real. You've got it. It's, we like to call it me power. We can do amazing things when we put our mind to it. And that might not be making £1 million or 100 billion. It might just be losing half a stone in the next 2 months. That's well within everybody's power if they understand the science of behaviour change, if they understand brain states. So you can do it if you understand, not just put your mind to it, but if you actually understand what drives your behaviour. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Andrew.
No, I think you covered it off pretty well, Jon. Only that it is, that offer is, it's great to talk to people about what they're doing, what are the challenges they're seeing, what are the opportunities that they are seeing. And so really happy to have that conversation, and I'm sure we'll be providing means for people to be able to get in touch and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'll put a link beneath the podcast so people can look at your calendar for those conversations. So we'll do that, and then we'll be back with further episodes. But thanks for listening, and remember, you're only ever one brain state habit away. Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.